I'm Alicia.
And I'm Maddie.
And welcome to the Fangirl Diaries, a podcast where we talk about our obsessions,
Reminisce about our teen icons,
and explore the books, movies, and shows that made us the incredibly nerdy 30-somethings that we now are. Hello!
Hey!
This is an exciting episode today because we have got a slight difference of opinion.
Ooh!
Which almost never happens.
I know, normally we have the same obsessions.
Yes! But normally, Maddie and I sit down and just list out all the things we adore in the world, and those become the podcast content. And we do both really enjoy today's book and film saga, but we might be approaching it from slightly different angles.
Yeah, I think this is a good topic for the series, but because for the pod, because it fits into the genre of a lot of things that we do love and obsess over, and is it's kind of part of the canon of other similar types of YA books, the dystopian stuff, kind of sci-fi fantasy stuff. It fits in with that and is a really popular version of that. But yeah, we might have some slight differences of opinion on it.
I love that we're using this term, the YA canon. I think we started using it. I don't know if we used it in our Twilight episode, but we definitely used it for something.
But Twilight's definitely part of that. Yeah.
100%.
Particularly that era, this is kind of in a similar era, for maybe a little bit later, but it's still broadly part of the kind of, late 2010s, late 2000s, early 2010s kind of canon.
That's entirely right. And I think there's maybe a subsidiary pod episode due from you and I to talk about, nope, sod it, let's do it right now. I'm going to talk about kind of thinking about how this canon works. And it's us saying that really if you're a millennial, because this is subjective, right? That your core YA texts were, or that you grew up on a diet of Twilight and the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
And these were contemporaries of one another, pretty much in time. And then we migrate slightly, just literally a couple of years, and we get today's topic, which is Divergent. Wow, you said that with such a great face. Divergent.
And I think it is interesting because it's definitely influenced by those books and other books of that same kind of, before we got to Twilight and Hunger Games, we had Harry Potter. And I think in a way it's kind of the grown-up, it's kind of taking all of those and going the next step and capitalising on all of those ideas. And I think that's where it came from.
And these books continued to come out even while we were slightly aging out of the genre.
Yeah.
Or just were busy in our early 20s and had left that more teenage time.
Yeah.
Things like Shadowhunters were big, and that was mainly at the end of... whereas Twilight and Hunger Games would really hit us at school a bit more.
Yeah.
But this is very much... if you were constructing a reading list for somebody, God, what a great reading list. If someone just said, as I wish they would, I would quite like to read the key YA books from the early 2000s.
Yeah.
The first Divergent book would probably be on that list.
I think so, yeah.
Maybe even the whole series, but certainly
the first one.
Book one.
Yeah.
And it's worth us saying that for the purposes of our podcast episode today, we're largely going to focus on Divergent, the first book, the first film.
And the concepts around it as well, the setting up of the world and the ideas and the storyline, the kind of, the characters. We're not going to go deep into the storyline and plot of the later books and films, possibly, because it's not really worth it.
we can gesture to it, but a bit like we did with the Twilight episode, we're going to focus really on book one. Mm-hmm. And if we need to gesture to the later stuff, we will. Forgive us, anyone, if you've read book one and not the later ones and you don't want anything spoiled. It's hard for me to contain myself, and I apologise in advance if I say something about, I don't know, whatever happens in Allegiant or Insurgent. Yeah. So maybe this isn't the episode for you if you've only read book one and then you're about to read book two. Come back to this when you've finished the whole saga. But with all of these things, I often worry, and we talked about this with Harry Potter, I think, last time, is this cool anymore? Does anybody, or has it aged badly? Does anyone read this anymore? Is it still cool? And I was so happy the other day because I was taking the train to work, and it just so happens that on my train, a lot of teenagers get on the train.
Yeah.
And they're going to a girls' school. Actually, one in the exact same group as the one you and I went to.
Right.
And so it's like little miniature versions of us that get on the train every day. And I always think, oh, look at them.
It's them.
Yeah, it's them. I know those guys. and sometimes they're carrying sort of books and oversized keychains and all the things we had. And I distinctly overheard a conversation, snippets drifted towards me, where one of them said, right, but at the end of Divergent, this thing happened, and you see what happened with Triss and Four was there. And I was like, wait. And I thought, huh? Hang on. Did somebody say Triss and Four? Wait, okay, it was coming from a 13-year-old. But I thought, oh, this is so great. They weren't even alive when these books came out. But they're
scary.
Still cool.
That is scary. Do you think they were talking about the books or the films?
They were talking about the books. One of them had it.
That's nice.
Had the book. And I thought, oh, thank God.
I actually saw a TikTok from like a middle school librarian recently where she was reading out like the top 10 books that had been taken out of the like middle school library in the last year, and it didn't necessarily include the Divergent books, but it definitely included like the Hunger Games books, and I was like, oh, this is so nice.
That is so...
Our era is still relevant.
That is so reassuring. It really is. And I felt so many feelings when I overheard this conversation. I thought, there's not a world in which I can butt into this conversation without possibly being like removed from the train or just looking really weird. So I just let them talk about it in the corner. But then at the other end of the age spectrum, I also worry whether any of our contemporaries remotely re-engage with these things and rewatch it and care about these in the way that you, or especially I do.
I think the films have probably faded more than maybe the Hunger Games ones have. I think the Hunger Games ones still have more rewatchability than Divergent. But maybe that's because, as we've said, we have slightly different opinions.
No, I think you're right that the Divergent series, for anybody that followed the films and their release, obviously was never finished. They never filmed the full saga. The film series kind of fell apart.
Didn't they try and split the last book in half, which, again, we've mentioned a million times on our podcast, always a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think they tried to split it in half and then
never
were
filmed the
unable to
second
film
one.
the second half because people didn't care.
People had lost the thread by that point, that's right. But it was interesting that I was at a 30th birthday, it was Petra's birthday, and she sort of said, bless her, she said, hey guys, you should really listen to this podcast Maddie and Alicia are doing. No, but you see, whenever the podcast gets mentioned, I hesitate a bit because I look around the collected group and I thought, oh no, they're going to ask me to explain what it's about. And is anyone going to think this? They're going to think this is really weird. So I said, well, it's about, nostalgic stuff that we enjoyed from mainly from the noughties. And someone said, what's the next episode? I said, oh, we're going to talk about Divergent. And like two people were like, I love that. That was my favourite. And I thought, phew. It's like, yes, millennials still remember that for some people this was...
Yeah, of course. And obviously people have different memories of these things and people get into different stuff more than others. But actually, probably if you were with a group that was slightly younger than us, that's probably exactly the right group.
That is exactly what it was.
Yeah.
That these guys were literally a couple of years younger than us.
Yeah.
And these books would have hit them just as they would have missed us fractionally as teenagers.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't you give us a little kind of summary of what Divergent is about in case anyone has decided to listen who doesn't know it?
It's bizarre because we do a summary every time. And every time you ask me for it, I realise it's the only thing I've not prepared.
Just the concept, not the story,
okay.
the concept.
Okay, the concept of Divergent. So this is an urban dystopian sort of action. I want to call it fantasy. It's only fantasy in the sense that there's lots of made up elements.
Yeah.
But actually it's set in a futuristic version of our real world. It's Chicago, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Post-apocalyptic Chicago. As is always the case in these books, some sort of nebulous war.
Vague something has happened that we don't really get to the bottom of.
Yeah. And Chicago, the surviving source of civilization, has walled itself in and created the faction system, which is where society is divided into different groups, really defined by skill set or mental inclination. So it's things like abnegation, erudite. And they're so wonderfully named. Like, obviously, erudite is for the people who like... Look, erudite is the Ravenclaw, right?
Yeah. Well, this is possibly part of my problem with the whole thing.
This might be the issue.
Go on.
Yeah. And well, a lot of the book is focused on one of these factions called Dauntless, who are meant to be sort of the protectors of the city / the police, but they're also this renegade group that trade in violence, and they're sort of the action heroes of the faction system.
Yeah, they kind of value just like action and bravery above anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be brave. That's exactly they're the Griffin.
Brave in like a kind of reckless, random kind of way.
Yeah. I too have some notes about the way Dauntless is constructed. But the book follows Triss. So we have our teenage female heroine. Of course we do. Otherwise this wouldn't be in the YA category in quite the same way. And she comes from a faction. Her family are Abnegation originally.
Are they just like, they're just really kind, or like...
They're sort of, they believe in really simple living.
Yeah.
So they don't have mirrors. They don't believe in vanity. They're selfless. They're humble. And so Dauntless is almost like their opposite. And you are given the choice in this system as a teenager to pick. It's basically stick or twist. Do you stick with the faction that your family are in, that you grew up in, or you can pick your own?
But they also test you, don't they? And they give you like the Sorting Hat. They give you this is what your inclination is in your mind based on this kind of like mind test. So you've got that one. You've also got the one that, where you grew up, which I imagine it'd be much easier if those were just the same. But then technically you could choose any of them.
It's a much cooler version of that crappy test we had to do at school where you answer some questions and it basically tells you whether you should be a vet or a civil servant.
You know, I found my version of that really recently.
What
just
is
like
that
in the
called?
last few, it's like career-wise, future-wise or something.
Yeah.
And what did it tell me? It basically told me I should... It was like lots of sciencey things, but also... like it would throw in really random ones. Like I remember something about like puppeteering.
What?
Like it would have these like really weird ones that would like somehow get loads of scores.
Puppeteering?
Yeah. So it would have all these normal careers in there in this like list, and it would give you these like bar chart percentages of how suited you were. And if you went down to like 11th or 12th, sometimes you started getting the like wackiest stuff.
Oh my God. Mine said police, and I remember thinking, because I think I was sort of trying to get it to say something sexy like spy. I wanted it to generate something cool and enigmatic, and the closest it had was police. But really, I'm going to think that that's like Dauntless.
Yeah, okay.
It's not, because as we will go on to say, Dauntless is one of those things where you and I wouldn't last one day. We've definitely been kicked out, like for sure. But yes, the test that you have to do to determine which faction you're most suited to is basically like an upgraded version of that. They put you through some exercises. You go into this simulation. Cannot remember for the life of me the name of the character that does that, apart from the fact that she's played by Maggie Q. And that's very cool. But this is where our story begins, because when Triss takes the test suggests that she cannot be labelled in one faction or another.
She's divergent. Which is not good, and she has to keep it secret. That is what I remember.
That's entirely right. So
you're not allowed to have more than one
personality
trait. That would be bad.
A lot of people who've tried to really read into this book, or, you know, just a lot of the commentary around it has said this is basically an analogy for being neurotypical or being neurodivergent. And that a city and humanity can't function where you really strictly categorize people into these factions. And like, what happens if you have someone whose brain doesn't work that way?
Okay, that's a more interesting way of thinking about it. I like that.
Because Triss has aspects of abnegation, but she's also really brave, but she's also really smart. I don't remember what bit she has from Amity, which are the like farming people.
But isn't this almost the flaw? Isn't everyone everything?
Not in terms of the book, no. No.
Anyway.
Some people are not. But some people are divergent.
Right.
And the sort of woman in charge of the city, Janine, randomly played by Kate Winslet.
Yes. I mean, bold casting choice.
Bold casting choice. I don't know who was taking a greater risk there, the film or Kate Winslet,
yeah.
or Kate Winslet's agent.
Yeah, somebody.
Somebody was putting their neck on the line with that. But she is hunting divergence because they threaten
The system.
the system.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're going to have a very strict system, you can't have anyone that falls outside of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we've got that premise kind of brewing in the background. But in the meantime, Triss chooses to do what cool thing?
To join Dauntless instead of Abnegation.
Because who the frick wouldn't? Every time I watch this movie, which, unlike you, is quite a lot. I've watched this quite a lot. It gets to the moment where everybody's choosing their faction, a bit like the Sorting Hat. And every time I watch it, I think, why isn't everyone picking Gryffindor? In the same way that with this, I'm like, why is everyone not picking the group that has Theo James in it? I don't understand.
But they're also the group that, like, kills themselves half the movie. Like, you know, like, there are reasons not to. Some people just want a simple life. They don't want to be, like, jumping on trains half the time. Like, come on.
I just know that we would have been sorted into, like, Dauntless or Amity or something like... Not Dauntless. What's it called?
Erudite.
Erudite. The one that's about, like, doing well at tests.
Intelligence.
That one. Yeah, we'd be in that one.
Making rational decisions.
Yes. It's like the people who sort of... Yes, that's exactly right. But man, it looks boring there, and they don't have cool outfits, and it's just not the same. But I do think something that works about the book and the film is that because you are with Triss the whole time, we get to see Dauntless and to understand what it is at the same pace as her. So just like you were saying, she has a kind of idea of it, but then when you actually see what it is, it only takes her a very short amount of time to realise she might have miscalculated.
Right, yeah.
Because as you said, this is a faction that kills off the weak, that sorts you out through exercises.
They make them, like, fight each other. It's very Fourth Wing. Like, you know.
Let's go there. When I watched it again, I thought, this feels familiar. But that's just because we've been in our Basquiat War College era.
Yeah.
And it feels very like that. And I had forgotten how much Rebecca Yarros had pretty much absorbed from this.
Yeah.
And we've talked about Rebecca Yarros being a big YA fan and a big fantasy fan and absorbing so much of that into her book. But that's exactly right. From everything like one-on-one fighting on the mat, that's in Divergent. Learning skills like knife throwing. You're basically learning how to be an assassin.
Yeah.
And I thought, whoa, this is Basquiat. Even to the point where to get into the group, to get into Basquiat, you have to walk across that parapet thing. To get into Dauntless, you have to jump from the moving train over the gaping... so you basically fall down and die. And then to get in, you have to fall through that giant hole.
Yeah.
So all
like
these
the physical
tests,
challenges.
Yeah.
But then I think this is like the natural kind of evolution of these YA books, that they're all pulling from each other. And I think partly this was why... I mean, I think we kind of got the setup now, but I think... part of that, the kind of pulling from other places is why I didn't resonate so much with Divergent, because I could see in Divergent, oh, that's come from the Hunger Games, oh, that's come from Harry Potter, oh, that's come from like, well, even, I think we've potentially on the podcast talked previously about The Wind Singer, which was a more obscure one that we both really, really loved. Where they had like these tests and their families as a group would get moved up or down different class levels based on these tests and all these things. And I just felt like, I've seen this all before. It's not bringing me anything new or different this time. I just feel like it's kind of jumping onto all of these trends, like the female protagonists, like the Hunger Games and the sorting and everything. I just felt like, yeah, this is just kind of copying other things. But as you say, like that happens forever in all genres, and particularly like commercial fiction, where, yeah, your publisher's going to be looking for the next version of the things that have been successful. And if you can bring that, then no doubt you can be super successful, as Divergent was. So, you can't fault it in a way. But
Yeah.
I think it's why I didn't quite connect with it.
And we're seeing this kind of replication in the new adult romantasy genre at the moment.
Yeah.
That is being a little bit flooded. But I'm just such a sucker for genre fiction and for like a repeat format. And it's worth saying neither you or I saw this at the time. We didn't read this at the time that it came out, and we didn't see it in the cinema.
I think I did read it reasonably early.
Oh, did you?
Not like as soon as it came out.
Okay.
I definitely had a paperback version of it, so it can't have been that early. But I definitely read it before I saw the film.
I just wonder if an element of us registering it as fractionally passé is that by that point it sort of was.
Yeah,
right?
and we were a bit older.
Older.
Yeah.
Whereas I saw this on whatever streaming service was hosting it. And I remember within 5 seconds thinking, yippee, this is for me.
Excellent.
I was like, yes, I see what this is. Sign me up.
All right, tell me the things that got you hooked.
Oh my God. Okay. Just so much. By the same token, I enjoy that familiar structure a lot.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of the faction system. I like the urban dystopia. I love the idea of Dauntless. And I love a heroine who develops from somebody who's potentially a little bit more introverted and humble. Like Triss literally comes from abnegation. To seeing her learn how to be like completely awesome. And it weaves in all my favourite stuff. Fight training. A sort of, it's not actually an enemies to lovers storyline because 4 isn't her enemy, but it's certainly distrust. People who are not friends.
Yeah.
And I do think, and we'll talk about this in the sort of thermometer category, but I do think their relationship is very well done. In terms of those YA kind of relationships, that one for me, which is not really a factor in the Hunger Games. We've talked about the relationship elements in that not really landing for either of us. You don't really care about Peter.
Well, yeah, but you care about him as like an individual rather than as part of the relationship. It's about like when we talked about the Hunger Games, it's so much about the political side. And less about it as a, like, you're not waiting for some happy romantic ending because that's just not realistic.
Yeah.
That's not what those books are about. It's about using each other to, to kind of manipulate the situation. Whereas, yeah, you're right. In this, there is more focus on that romance side.
Yeah, the romance thing is more prominent, definitely. And then on top of all the standard format stuff, there are some really cool elements that I think are quite different. Like, do you remember they go into the mind simulations? And it's a little bit like they have to enter almost like a live video game and fight out their fears. And
Yeah, to me, that's just Ender's Game. So
oh, fine.
like, I'm sorry.
This is going to be really impossible. But
fine.
yeah, I was thinking, oh, that's different from the Hunger Games, but there we go.
Yeah, you got the sci-fi stuff coming in as well. But yes.
So which bits of it is there any bit of it where you think, actually, though, that to me was good?
You know what I think I did enjoy, and this is more about the movies, is I actually really enjoyed Shailene Woodley as an actress. And like, she's quite like I don't know, she's an interesting person to watch, and she's charismatic. And so I quite just enjoyed, her bringing that character through. And, I thought overall as that first film, it was kind of well paced and put together, and like it kind of, it kept up the action quite well. And overall, as a kind of blockbustery type movie, I don't think it was a bad movie.
No.
I think it was quite well done.
That movie is good.
Yeah.
And a lot of the more recent, like, retrospective commentary about it, because we're relatively far away from it now. So this was in 2014. Oh God, it's 10 years old. Oh my God. Sorry, that's not quite as old as some of the stuff we talk about, but still. It was coming out at the end of, and maybe it had misjudged, the market was slightly saturated by this point.
Slightly done.
Yeah, we'd wrapped up all the Twilight movies. We were at the end of, we just got to Mockingjay Part 1 being released. So Hunger Games had sort of lost momentum. And I think the first Divergent film is genuinely great, like really good. And a lot of the retrospective commentary says this was underappreciated at the time because people had sort of tired of this format. Shailene Woodley is awesome in it.
Yeah, I think she's good. I think she's a good actress in general. I always enjoy her. I really enjoy her in The Fault in Our Stars as well.
Oh yeah, she's great
really
in that.
Anyway.
She is so great in that. She was great in, I think just before this film, she'd done The Descendants with George Clooney.
Yes.
And she was brilliant.
Kind of breakout star.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, she's
at the time.
Really good actress.
Yeah.
And these sort of films benefited from great casting of their female lead. Like Jennifer Lawrence is an Oscar-winning actress.
Yeah.
Like, they got really good, actually, and Kristen Stewart, fair play.
Yeah, she's done really well for herself. But yeah.
These are women who were super watchable and who could carry a franchise. And she certainly does that. I like her as well. Do I maybe even prefer her to Jennifer Lawrence in Hunger Games?
Well, we talked about this. Katniss is not meant to be likeable.
No.
Whereas I think Triss is likeable.
I would agree.
Yeah.
And in the books as well, I do find Katniss, who's frighteningly similarly named to Triss. I do find Katniss, I get to a point where I just want to shake her a bit. And she gets almost too surly. And I appreciate that she's, it's a wonderful depiction of somebody who's gone through like remarkable trauma.
Yeah.
But a lot of her warmth is lost very, very, very quickly. Triss also gets quite... she's an uncomfortable watch and an uncomfortable read once you move past the first book, but she still retains an element of lightness that I think really is snuffed out in Katniss.
Yeah,
pretty early on in the first Divergent film. She's brilliant, really, really warm, which plays so well against Theo James, who's surly and sort of cranky for most of the movie, and you think, oh, come on. Rest of the cast, by the way, is wild. Like, a little bit similar to, how when we were rewatching Hunger Games, and I was like, oh my God, people like Philip Seymour Hoffman are in this franchise. Like, the cast is actually brilliant. We were talking about as that saga went on, they start to empty most of Hollywood into that movie.
Well, that's the thing, is I think this film probably was, when it was being financed and being set up, was trying to ride on the success of those movies. And even if it didn't quite manage to hit, they were able to put enough funding in and to like tell enough people that this was going to be major to get those big names.
Yeah, it's got decent budget. The special effects are awesome. Like, it doesn't look like when we talk about the first Twilight movie, and you were like, this was basically made on a shoestring.
Yeah.
And then they got some budget when they realised it was going to be as big as it was. But this has got Kate Winslet, Octavia Spencer, and the subsidiary cast of characters as well. The other people in Dauntless include Zoe Kravitz, Miles Teller, Ansel Elgort. Like, the people in this are all really big names now.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, really big names. If anything, I was thinking, where's Shailene Woodley gone?
Yeah, she hasn't done as much recently. She did for a while, but yeah.
She did for a while, and I was Googling thinking, God, I hope this saga wasn't sort of the demise of her. But she's in a new Adam Driver film, so I thought, okay,
she's all right.
She's back for you. But I don't know how they got people like Kate Winslet to agree to be
Money.
Janine. Money, yeah, maybe. Like, you're now going, you've got your multiple Oscars and you're now going to be in this dystopian teen franchise. Maybe it's because Kate Winslet has kids and
stable money.
True. True. They were like, you don't die until at least the second film. Yeah. So you've got 2 movies out of this.
Yeah.
But no, I wonder how they got her to do that. The other thing that makes it really YA is how the book and the film navigates the inclusion or indeed exclusion of the parent generation. Because YA often deals with parents in a way that adult fantasy doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, or it just doesn't in really the same way. And the first film basically it ends with the death of Triss's parents. So with a lot of YA, you have that kind of shedding of the parents.
Well, she also chooses to walk away from her parents right at the beginning. Like, and that's very YA, isn't it? To be like, right, I'm going to take the different path, like separate. And that allows you to then have them explore their own life without having to come home at the end of the day to their parents.
That's right, because always in this genre, the book has to always create a reason why some sort of abnormal adventure can happen to a 16 or 17-year-old. Always. Yeah. Because even in your futuristic societies, there's still things like school and home life. So, Katniss has to go off and be in the Hunger Games. We talked before about Bella moves to Forks, and it's really only her dad in charge of her there, and he's busy.
He doesn't really care.
He does, but he's like busy being the chief of police or whatever he does. So YA always has to contrive to like get a teenager on their own.
Yeah, and make it more interesting.
Yeah, or to just let them, do hot fight training with Theo James's character.
Who is definitely too old for her, by the way.
Okay, so I looked up their ages. Because I just needed to check this.
Oh dear.
He is not that much older than Shailene Woodley, which is good.
Yeah, but the characters, I don't know what they're meant to be.
Yeah, he does look older than her in the film. So certainly every time I watch it, I think, oh yeah, he does look like someone who's maybe been cast several years
above
older.
Their age,
yeah, but the gap between them is not as exaggerated as in some of the things that we're going to talk about. Shall we go there? Shall we dig into
well,
the
I think you're ready to talk about them, so let's go to your thermometer level.
Oh my god, I could talk about them all day.
Yeah.
Okay, what's my thermometer level? So this is YA.
Yeah.
There is a limit on what is included in the book and film. And I love their relationship. I'm going to give it a 68 degrees.
It's pretty high.
I wanted to go 70, but I couldn't let it start with a 7.
Okay.
No.
All right. Cool.
Okay, go on. What are you going to give it?
I feel like I can't really judge because I've never really I just have never really felt it. I feel like I'm just set apart from it.
You've got to rewatch this movie. They're so hot.
I know that they're objectively attractive, but yeah, I just didn't get into it, and it's probably because it's all wrapped up in all the rest of it. If I loved the franchise, then I would feel differently. So, I'd probably be giving it a 40 or something because I can see that it's there.
That's fair. It's a subjective category.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But I will let you own this category. I think that's only fair.
This is like when I just went on a rant about Aragorn. We're going to let Alicia talk about Triss and Four now. I love them as a YA couple. It's so different from the soporific, almost gothic romance of Edward and Bella, who I love separately, but who we've criticised in the action category for sometimes being a bit pants. That there's many, many books of Bella just falling over.
Yes.
And that sort of thing.
Him protecting her a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. This category is for helping Triss to become awesome. Basically an action figure who sort of outstrips his abilities at a certain point. Well, almost. And their relationship develops very, very Xaden and Violet-like in that training environment of Dauntless. And they start from a point of distrust. He's like the kind of captain figure. He's in charge. He's a senior member of, I can't remember what his exact position is. My brain wanted to say wing leader, and I was like,
I was going to a bit like Xaden.
It's so very much like Xaden. In fact, dear God, it's so Rebecca Yarros just read all the good stuff because it really is same thing. They've got parental issues. There's stuff to do with their lineage. They've had past trauma. Anyway, but that is why it makes a hot character. So I love the character of Four. I think Theo James is so well cast. This is basically just everybody's favourite Theo James vehicle. And he's still awesome. This is 10 years ago. And if you watch him now in White Lotus, I'm like, oh my God, he's still so hot. And I love that he's one of our British exports.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think
we're very good at those.
We're so good at
A whole load
those.
of Americans have no idea that they're British most of the time.
I actually got really into this, and so like literally wrote this stuff down.
Oh yeah.
Especially in the YA like adaptation space, that, you know, Britain produced Robert Pattinson, obviously, also produced Max Irons, who's in The Host, and Theo James. Like, what would these movies do without these British men?
That's true.
All attempting American accents, which I think Theo James does quite well. But he's so perfect for this kind of action role. I mean, he looks ridiculous in this movie, in a good way. And the film very cleverly has him sort of take off his shirt at an opportune moment. And you, like Triss, are like, oh my God, Jesus. Oh boy. But they do the slow burn really, really, really well. Right from the moment of registering, you can see it on Triss's face when she's taken the jump into Dauntless. She's fallen through into the safety net. He rolls her out of the safety net and sort of can't believe that she's the first person who's done the jump.
Did the jump, yeah.
Because she looks pathetic. She's come from abnegation. I think he says something like, were you pushed? Or whatever. But she looks at him in the way that you would if you'd seen Theo James for the first time. like, holy, who is this? Hang on a moment, what? But their banter is great. She's sort of the only one to call him out. He is really snappy with her for a lot of the movie and says, like, what makes you think you can talk to me? She's like, oh, because it's because you're so approachable. Like, she's got really good repartee with him. And then, of course, it morphs into he starts to help her because she doesn't know how to fight. She's pretty weak at the start.
Yeah.
She's not really cut out for Dauntless in the beginning physically. And he gives her some technique pointers and helps her in a way that actually means she doesn't get cut from the division or from the faction. So it's brilliant. And I think the trope of the mind simulations allows them to really bond in quite a unique way. They let each other into each other's like fearscape. And I thought, oh, that's neat. And they go through the sort of challenges together. And it means you learn that 4 is scared of heights.
Yes.
Brings them closer together. And as the book and film goes on, he becomes the more vulnerable one. Even as I'm talking about it, I'm thinking, well done, Veronica Roth. It's just so good. It's so good. And Shailene Woodley and Theo James have genuine chemistry.
Yeah.
Like really good chemistry. I would say that their kiss in the first film is one of the best YA kisses.
Ooh.
Watch it again. It's actually really good. And I think Theo James is maybe even with who's now his wife, but it looks like they're both into it, which means good acting.
Maybe we need a countdown of the top 10 YA kisses in one of our coffee break episodes.
No, forget that. People will be going, do it now. I'm thinking about it right now. Oh my God. Surely the Twilight kiss.
Yeah,
film one.
definitely Twilight.
Surely. I gave that as my USP for the film. The one in the bedroom, the first kiss where he has to like stop himself because he's a vampire. But it's genuinely quite good.
It is hot.
That one. See, Hunger Games, nah.
There's no like real hot romantic moment in Hunger Games.
No, there's just not. It's all for show. She has to kiss Peter for the cameras.
I guess Gale, like, they do like each other, but yeah, they don't really get that moment.
Oh yeah, you're right. Gale, yeah. Liam, what's his name? Liam Hemsworth's character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't envisage a really good Gale and Katniss kiss. I know it's in there, but it doesn't live in my headcanon in the way that the Triss and 4 kiss does. And it's so well, like that whole scene is so well done with him explaining the back tattoo. Jesus Christ, he just is Xaden. Like, I think Veronica Roth should write to Rebecca Yarros and ask for like some retroactive payments or something.
Yeah, but this is my point. It's all like, the same. Like, she'll have done the same previously. So anyway.
Yeah, probably. But it is like, whoa, okay.
All right.
You're gonna like edit me out of this category, aren't you? Like, nope, that's it. She's done. Wrap it up.
All right. One more moment that you wanted to talk about then in the thermometer category.
Okay. Well, I was one more. Okay. It's from the second movie where my favorite moment of 4, who you spent the whole first film thinking he's really quite closed off. He's really quite, he's tough. He's a tough guy. It's him who admits to the power of their relationship first when he says in the second film, it's I fell in love with Tris Prior and I couldn't leave her. And it's such a brilliant moment, and it's in public. He sort of admits to it, and she looks at him, and it's so vulnerable. But Theo James is really great. Yeah, they've cast 2 really decent actors to play these guys, and it's a credit to them that their careers, and certainly Theo James, still going really, really strong. Well, yeah. So okay, I'm done. I'm done with the thermometer category. I'm done.
Badassery.
Oh, so very, very high.
The thing with this category for me is that, like, it's kind of badass in, like, a kind of funny way. It's like they created this whole faction whose whole goal is to be badass. Yeah, it's like they're only, like, they don't have any particular, like, motivations other than do the most badass thing at any one time, which of course makes it badass, but it's also quite funny. And it means that they're always endlessly like jumping off of shit, jumping onto trains, running about, fighting for no reason. And it's just like, it's a vehicle for putting in cool shit into the book and the films.
It is, you're right. And if you do start to unpick it, it unravels quite quickly. Like, they're meant to be sort of like law enforcement in a way. Well, the reason behind Dauntless is always relatively loosely explained.
Yeah.
Because they seem like this rather renegade, scary faction, but they're kind of in charge of
security. They're kind of trying to train them up, I guess, to then take on those roles, I guess. Later.
Yeah. But then I'm also like, this is an isolated city that has super high electrified walls. Who's attacking them?
Well, we haven't talked about the factionless, who I guess are these, like... they're the people who don't get sorted and they kind of live just homeless. And I think the idea is that those people need to be kept down, kept weak, kept in the underclass.
That's right. So it's almost like maintaining civil order rather than... And yet at the same time, these are a crazy bunch of people.
Yeah, they're mad.
They're completely mad. That you don't want your law enforcement to be quite as insane.
No, although in a way that's like mildly realistic, because I think a lot of people are attracted to various things like law enforcement and the army because they think that
it's an action film.
Yeah, because it's an action film. So honestly, it's not the thing that I have the most problem with.
No, it's true. It's true. And it is a vehicle for all this badass stuff. So it lets them play around with knife throwing and guns and target practice they learn sort of hand-to-hand combat. And they actually, whoever was the fight coordinator on this was working with the director and with the actors too. They made up their own sort of style of hand-to-hand fighting for this movie. That's like a combination of various different fighting styles. But when you watch the film, you think, oh yeah, it does actually all look... The way that they're learning to block punches and to sort of jab at each other is very, very cool. And I like that the film spends enough time in that space of Tris moving up through the ranks of Dauntless, because it looks like she's going to get cut for a good amount of time and she's going to be factionless. So unlike Basquiat, where if you fail, you die or you get incinerated or like fall off a cliff or something.
Yeah.
In this one... that's it, you get kicked out. Yeah. You're homeless, basically. You can't go back to your original faction.
No, because you weren't sorted into them. You didn't choose them, so...
No, so this is YA. The level of threat is homelessness. Rather than children's literature like Harry Potter, where the threat is expelled. It's slightly different. Okay, what other badass stuff is there? The fight training stuff is awesome, and so are the little set pieces, like... I do enjoy the running onto the train, onto a moving train. And that features in a number of the films a number of times. And Tris has to run. It's the sort of thing that's in a recognisable environment where you think, oh, that does exist in the physical world, but there's no freaking way I would try it.
Yeah.
Or like, how often do you think, oh yeah, I'd love to test myself against the moving underground train and see if I could like...
I never think that. I literally never think that.
Sometimes, if I'm going for the tube, and you know when you get there and you can see the doors closing, and sometimes I think, I wonder if I could just like, run alongside it and sort of jump on. And then I think, no. No, I'd definitely die. But it was also at a time when things like parkour were really cool. Maybe it still is.
Yeah.
And it really plays into that you have what's meant to be the ruins of Chicago, and you see these teenagers climbing up buildings, jumping from rooftops. They seem to have command over their physical space in a way that, if you're 17 and quite law-abiding, might, as a fantasy, seem quite cool. What if you were just scaling up drain pipes, or climbing up the ruins of what would have been the London Eye or something. So I think it does that. That's an element of it being badass that's really, really cool. And I would say that, I don't know if this quite sits in this category, but the costumes rock.
Yeah.
So if you're in Dauntless, you get to wear a cool
You get the cool stuff.
you absolutely do. You get sort of almost like a protective vest type thing. And as the films go on, Triss gets put in a sort of zippable, a zip down racer back. They're in sort of cool gear. I mean, Theo James is just in a black t-shirt and jeans for the entire movie, but I think just on costuming day, maybe they started him in the black t-shirt and jeans.
Okay, that's good enough.
That's fine.
Just stay like that, please.
Yeah. They just thought, nothing else. Just that. If anything, we'll undress him. But otherwise, he can wear that for the whole movie. Maybe if there's an outdoor scene, we'll give him a jacket. But the rest of Dauntless, they do wear really cool stuff. They get cool weapons, and then how to use them. Something, though, very YA that's in this category is similar to Hunger Games, where you see a teenager who has not really dealt in violence have to deal in violence for the first time. And quite rightly and responsibly, the book shows them being really quite traumatized by it. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
For YA.
Yeah, because those things are easy to glamorize, especially for teenagers and reading something like that. And to not take it seriously, then no, it's good.
Yeah, that's right. The first book, she kills Will, who is one of the other members of Dauntless. She has to shoot him because he's being controlled by Janine in the mind control thing. And that basically conditions a lot of her mental breakdown in book 2 and a lot of her... the first book, she's killed Will, she's lost her parents, and you can really see how we're going to start the second book on quite a traumatic note. But it's not the case that Triss joined Dauntless and then finds it incredibly easy to go around shooting people.
Yeah.
The first person, really, that she has to... Well, she kills him. She can't move past for a very, very long time. And Katniss suffers similarly from the Hunger Games. She tries to get through as much of that without killing anyone. While also being thought of as a kind of key action figure. So that's something good, I think, about YA.
Nice.
It does that really well. What about Obsession Fuel, our final category?
I think this is where we're going to things are going to fall apart. I honestly think that this is why I couldn't get into it, is because I couldn't get into the world. Because to me, as you said earlier, too much of it falls apart once you start thinking about it too carefully. And I'm just these factions don't make any sense. I can never remember what the categories are that they are in. They all seem like five random personality traits that don't actually relate to actual useful stuff in the world. 2 of them begin with A, and I never remember which one's which. And
Amity and abnegation.
And about 3 of them seem to be about just being nice, but I don't know what any of them are. And I'm just none of this makes any sense. How could you run a world like this? People have different personality. I think there's some reason why people only have one personality trait. I think it's there's some genetic engineering at some point that they explain. But anyway, and I'm just I don't understand why. And then you've got this central character that the central thing about her is that makes her special is that she has more than one personality trait, which is that's the most normal thing in the world. Why? And I just couldn't connect to the world that was being created because it just didn't seem in a way that was very different to other kind of dystopian worlds where you can see, oh my goodness, I can see how this could happen. Obviously, some of the classics, like really serious dystopian novels, then yeah, sure, like Handmaid's Tale and stuff, where you're like, oh my goodness, I can see how this could happen. But the Hunger Games at least managed to have that as well. You could just about, even though some of it was contrived, you could kind of see, especially in things like the capital and the kind of political systems, you could see that reflected in. There's just nothing about it that I see as like reflecting anything important in our world. Like, I don't see any lessons that I'm learning from it, which helps me to understand like why it's been set up in the way it has.
You didn't mind the neurodivergent theory?
Yeah, well, I'd never thought of that, and I did quite like that as a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah,
you're
right. Yeah. It doesn't have the political analogies in quite the way. It's odd to sort of say, well, Hunger Games seems more sort of believable or like it could happen, because the setup of that is so high concept. This idea of a televised, basically murder show. And yet, people would watch it.
Exactly, that's the thing. It's like, it's so dramatic. And similarly with Handmaid's Tale, it's like, it's so insane and so scary and terrifying. And yet, because you recognise things like reality TV, like, you know, the Met Gala being like the capital, you know, like,
Blood
you just
sports,
like
gladiators,
you can see where it's coming from. Whereas this, I don't see it as like a realistic world, and that's why I can't get that obsession fuel.
The world building feels a little too scant for you.
Yeah, that's basically it.
I think that's fair, and it is for a younger audience, so we're not dealing like we were last time with something like Dune.
No.
Or like how we adore Lord of the Rings, like your high fantasy, serious sci-fi, where the layers of complexity are there. This kind of goes, okay, this is the structure, and get on board with it, and now we're going to get into the story, or else, And it does, as the books go on, try and remedy that slightly with, you're right, this idea about genetic modification and the fact that the sort of city of Chicago was almost an experiment in and of itself. And that becomes a little bit Hunger Gamesy with, you know, the people who are being observed and in a sort of experiment. But to me, I agree, this is my flaw with it as well.
Yeah.
I was like, either keep it simple and we're all just going to agree that the flaw is there.
Yeah.
Or if we're going to get more complicated about it,
it needs to work.
It needs to work.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually what caused the films to fall apart as well, that it moves away from a really, really easy linear narrative. Like Divergent feels so pleasurable to watch. As a beginning, middle and end, it has its own sense of threat within it, which is Janine's uprising, where Erudite try and take over. And that is defeated by Triss and Fort, and you think, great.
Done.
Awesome.
But now we need a sequel because we need more books, more money, more films.
Yes, we do. Something we should give credit to, though, and I'm retrospectively very jealous of this, is that I was Googling Veronica Roth, and this to me feels like a saga that, is more than 10 years old or something, and I was fully expecting to see like a 50 or 60-year-old woman. And it said that basically Veronica Roth is like our age.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Wait. What? Like, how? And she wrote this at college.
Yeah.
In basically almost one sitting, turned it into a publisher who thought, yeah, I'll have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who thought, yes.
This is happening.
That's spot on. That's exactly what we want. And so she's actually remarkably young. Yeah.
And I don't think that any of my criticisms should be taken as criticisms of her, because I think that there is absolute value in writing and creating something commercially viable, jumping on a trend, and like there is skill in creating something that is going to be successful, because you find all the right pieces and put them in together in the right order, and like creating something like that takes like absolute skill. So yeah, my criticisms are not for like snobbish reasons. I just didn't get on board with it.
Yeah. And this is in a pre-AI world where managing to assemble the best bits of pre-existing genre fiction and bringing them together and making it still feel, to some people, quite fresh was a talent. My last-ditch attempt at trying to get obsession fuel out of this, because you're right, it's not a deep world build structure. No. This is not an epic, like, saga. It did do something for teenagers, clearly. It was popular and is popular. This is continuing to sell and engage people now. But I also really think the film has a wicked soundtrack. And we've talked before about how YA films tend to be a vehicle for really, really good soundtracks.
Yeah.
Or getting just like great bands or great, like whoever is really kind of musically relevant at that stage.
Yes.
To be on the soundtrack. And when I was watching Divergent again, I thought, oh my God, this has Woodkid. It has Run Boy Run. You know, that...
Oh, that is the only thing that has like been going around in my head for the last like hour has been just the Dauntless people running to...
Every time that bit comes on, every time you're right.
Time to run, time to run.
It's so wicked. It's one of my favourite music moments in any of these kind of films.
Yeah.
When it's on, I'm just like, yeah, it's cool. It works. It's really cool. But the soundtrack's got like Ellie Goulding in it. It's got Kendrick Lamar. It's got like quite a lot of, it's got Odessa. And even when it gets to the credit, just the whole way through, I keep thinking, oh, that's a great song.
Yeah, you gotta
that's a great song.
Like tap into the zeitgeist of the moment to really like, capture teens' attention.
It does that really well. And Ellie Goulding is to this movie what Hayley Williams and Paramore were to Twilight.
Yeah.
And I was watching it, I thought, oh God, yeah, Ellie Goulding was massive.
Yeah.
Like, she's still a big deal, but that was really the height of her fame. And this is something where I will listen to the soundtrack separately to the film. And we spoke about Hunger Games doesn't really do that.
No.
Zero contemporary music, basically. Within, like, as in, yes, over the credits.
Yeah, but within the movie.
But not in the movie. Yeah, not at all. Whereas, this gives us the pleasure of, like, all the cool bands and all the cool people who want to kind of be on the soundtrack. So I'm putting that in Obsession Fuel.
Nice.
There we go.
All right.
Brill. Well, that is us wrapped up for Divergent.
Divergent. And our views on it were, in fact, Divergent. I promise you, I just thought of that.
Oh my God, how did we not realise that before? Wow.
All right, we'll leave you on that bad pun and see you next time.
See you next time. You've been listening to the Fangirl Diaries. Follow us on Instagram at Fangirl Diaries Pod.
And do share us with any of your friends that you think might enjoy the podcast and rate or review us on Spotify or Apple Music.